was still like in a constant orgasm, that's my word of course, producing more and more pine cones. And the interesting thing for me as a landscape architect, when I visited this site, and you know, it was a very hot midsummer, and you could hear the cones crack. The smell of larch was there. So imagine these courtyards. And this was a very zen moment. That, and it was also, the strange thing is that if you see pine cones, millions of pine cones, they represent a sort of death. Dry. It's so dry. You're eager for have a drink of water. It makes you even aware of it. It's so thirsty, while you're not thirsty at all. So, but in the same time, it's also a symbol of life, because you know, the pine cone will bring the seed. Life. So all of the monastery was completely taken over by these pine cones. So this is a miracle to start the ritual. Pilgrims, girls. Okay. Before I start a lecture seriously, I tell you, I want to share two positions. So first, I'm a landscape architect. Actually, I'm born in the Netherlands, which is a country below sea level, and due to the fact that my grandfather, I lived a long time with my grandfather, and he was a dike engineer, so he was in the spirit of reclaiming land, pumping the water out. And he was from a generation who did really remarkable jobs in the Netherlands. And my father, he was a very strange guy. He learned me how to jump over ditches with a stick. And he brought and sort of implanted in my brain, when I was a small kid, the logic that it's almost like Native Americans. Like, the land is yours, this is yours. You can go anywhere, there's no fence, it's yours, it's your country. And it's not, it's beyond possessing it, it's really in your heart. So, and as a result of that, I became landscape architect. So landscape architecture is not my thing. My thing is the Dutch landscape, you know, the landscape created from the sea bottom. And it's very important that you understand that. So I'm not a landscape architect. I never consider myself like that. But there is something below the landscape architect practice we run, which is more essential, and this is what I'm busy with. As a matter of fact, I'm very much involved into campaigning and politics, because there are many problems in Dutch landscape, and I jump into the arena, argue with politicians, write articles in newspapers. I'm a fundamentalist almost, related to this landscape, and I don't allow my generation to spoil it, or you know, like Los Angeles, Holland is becoming a big Los Angeles. And people get lost of their own countryside and history, which is so rich. So this is my campaign. Landscape architecture practice is something else. Then the other thing is that, for example, I have, you know, family of us have two generational housing in Catalonia, and I built it as a mock-up for a project we wanted to do, the hexagon walls, to fill them with stones from the forest, and this is a live project, because in one vacation you can fill one hexagon, because you have to carry all the rocks from the forest first, and then you have to make mortar, and you know, with the children, because they are part of the job as well, we fill it up. So I think that's my second position. I think for being in a neurosis of landscape architecture, being practicing, you need a sort of resources and rituals to be linked with nature, and that's, for me, this the stone job. And this is a nice shadow, isn't it? And you know, I'm also pushing my kids to make positions, and then I punish myself to execute it, which is of course not so easy if you are not a stone guy. I'm not from a stone country at all. So, okay, these are the two things that you might better understand. A few years ago, we had an idea of to design a bridge, which is a normal truss bridge, but then with a twist. We at least 4 times did not get a job, or lost a competition, or we were involved and then the client broke out. And it became for me an obsession because I thought it is such an unbelievable concept. And today the twist is totally in fashion. So I was year after year after year busy with this to sell the idea. Because if you twist let's say a normal truss, you get a higher, you get more height in the middle, and construction-wise, the bridge becomes more easy as a piece of construction. Am I right? This is actually true. In manufacturing, it's a little bit more complex, but it's more efficient with the materials. So finally, we got a project which is in a small village next to the city of Rotterdam. It's almost on our doorstep. And we won a competition to build a bridge. I'm trying to share, and I'm honest, and I also have to follow up being Maha. So dealing with the context, but adding, playing with it. And I think this is very much about hesitation and at the same time to be stubborn. And I think that is, if you take a whole package, that's what you call a midlife crisis. We did a bridge, and as always, because that is the logic of the rotated bridge, we lost because the tender was too expensive. And this was in the 2 years ago when the market was completely mad and everyone made a fortune with bubble money, and contractors they asked prices which are completely outrageous. One project they established themselves alive on the Bahamas. It didn't work. So we almost lost the project. So, but the tender procedure was so complex at a small village. If it would have failed, then it would have been the end of the mayor of this village. So we were pushed to a solution. So we were 100% kidnapped by a contractor who fooled around with the project. So, as a matter of fact, I tell this because I think it's very important for specifics too. You see a very simple, nice design, a rectangle becomes rotated and ends as a rectangle, and the bridge deck is independent from the truss and flies in a small arch, which makes the bridge sexy and not stupid. Really, those details they really matter, and it didn't work. So. We had to do, these were all the things, we had to do an unbelievable, shameless step, and we did it, and the step is that we shortened the bridge with 20%. But the contractor did not allow us to redesign it, because there was no money, no time, and it was, if you change the design, it could be a legal argument by the losers of the bid to say, yeah, they changed the design, now we have to you have to open the tender also for us who did not get the project. So we had to do a sort of shameless steps, and here sort of, and I strongly want to raise here a sort of academic question. Here is sort of random thing or bad luck cross our path. And that will normally bring a present. But, you have to digest my words now in philosophy on an academic level. I cannot do that. So what we did, we cut the bridge, and the bridge became unbelievably impotent, because it starts as a rectangle. At the middle of the water, it's in totally fantasy, like torqued, and then it want to land and it cannot land because the money's gone. You see. So it hangs there, and the shore, it doesn't reach the shore, so we bring the shore to the bridge. Seriously, this is about a sort of shameless exercise. So here you see the bridge spans, jumps over the water, bang, it's there. But we didn't make it. You see, so here. This is the result. Now, of course, as a practitioner, you have to deal with these realities, and you know what? We were so happy with it. So we went to the mayor and told him, this is the best present we ever get. The bridge is imperfect now because it misses a certain 20%. Now the story comes to myself. I'm married to an actress. She is a theater actress, and you know, about every night when she comes home, she brings half-drunk actors, and they sit in our living kitchen. We always stay in the kitchen, of course. And all those guys, including my wife, they have with them a box, and in the box they collect, and that's their how they are wired. They collect characters, people, stories with a tick. So they are only interested in idiots, in disabled, in handicapped, in fools, in, you know, where things become not perfect. While we are all architects, we hate to be in a sort of, you know, over the horizon where perfection, control is gone. And I lived for years and years in this constant clash of, you know, being the engineer, ordering the world in real dimensions and criteria, and she being my wife and looking for, you know, imperfection, and only is happy when, because for her there is even constellation. Do you understand? So when she is playing, and it's not about perfection, the philosophy, and many actors say this kind of story. They say, yeah. We all share one thing, that at the end of the day, you hesitate about yourself. So if you see imperfection, you're happy. Because you think, I'm not the only one. And, well, think about these things in terms of architecture. And this bridge, yeah, this bridge is so interesting. So here you see, we had a very interesting concept as well. When we started to sell the bridge, we explained that this is a bridge for biker and pedestrian. And if you take the bridge and the whole world looks around you, you might enter like this and walk out like that, because your orientation is lost. Of course, we tested it, and it did not. This was not true. So it was a nice concept, but it didn't work. But in the end, at the end of the day, so when we saw these imperfect, shameless compromises, we became intrigued by the bridge. So that was also the moment we decided to rotate the railing bars as well, and we started to fantasize and make new renderings about the result. Then still the bridge could not be built because it was, you know, I tell you, the tender lot, it was too expensive. And another solution we brought on the table, I'm very proud of that, is that we said we can save money if we build a bridge there and we make a temporary building from containers, because the contractor was from Antwerp, from Belgium, and they had to ship all the components and weld them together, but they could not change the price anymore. So we decided ourselves to organize a solution which the local community, of course, accepted as a temporary building. So this is our piece of architecture. This is a container box with a roof, and this is how it sits in the landscape. and there they built the bridge. And at the end of the day, they sold this building with a fortune, so the contractor made twice the money. Because there was another contractor who said, I need such a building. Yeah, you can buy it. So when the bridge was done, they sold it. So there's a crane over the roof, you see. I think it's a big project. So here they assembled the bridge. They paid it, and there was an engineer involved to move it in position, 2 cranes, and then we opened the bridge. This is one of the nicest photographs. Here's my youngest son, blue guy, and now the bridge is there. Look at the lamps. I mean, this is sexy, you know. The bridge, it doesn't arrive. I'm very proud on the product, but what I would like to exchange with you here is that I think, you know, dealing with context, architects, landscape architects, I think are by education more forced to deal with context and less object related. But the sort of the crisscross of both architecture and landscape architecture is a very intriguing department. Although you see this sort of, you see how bad the landscape, because there is this bank which jumps into the water works. Okay, a few months ago we had a lot of snow. I went there to see the bridge in snow. I was totally in love. Look at this. I mean, this is a very busy road, but in winter nobody was there. Snow on the bridge, ice in the water. And then I make this photograph. Wow. It's nice, eh? Okay. I try to get you involved in a sort of context-related stuff. Before the wall fell, I went every year to Russia. I'm a little bit obsessed with the Russian art and poetry, architecture, and I made friends. And one of the friends phoned us 50 years later. He was then reknown is the architect of this, a very rich architect who has a lot of successful commercial projects. He was asked by a tycoon who was a specialist in running luxury brands. So let's say you take the most squeezed shopping mall, shopping street from Beverly Hills or Hollywood. You have only brands like Maserati, Gucci. You know, only that. So nothing below. You can buy a yacht. Like, you cannot think about can that exist. Yeah, it can be even more exquisite. And he runs a shopping street for those companies who don't dare to invest in Russia. So they bring their products and advertising, and he runs the whole business. And he had a very brilliant idea. This guy is a mathematician. He is unbelievably clever, but totally not a developer. And he had a brilliant idea. He said, I'm gonna make he had already an old street next to Red Square and a huge department store, like Saks, with only these brands. Now his third concept would be a shopping mall for luxury in the forest. Can you imagine? So the client calls my friend, he introduces me to the client, and I go to Moscow drinking, and because they test you with vodka, of course. You know, my size is not allowing too much, but the client had he went into deeper details, and this is unbelievable. So it opened all my fantasies for Russian poetry, etc. He said, my clientele is, you have to be serious with this, Adriaan. These are the rich man mattresses. mattresses. How you call them? The lovers. Mistresses. Mistresses, right? And so the rich guys, they live in the west of Moscow. Also Putin lives there, everyone lives there with money. Real money, and no little money, real money. And the girls, they have nothing to do, and I think, and they don't want to come to Moscow with a taxi, if we bring products there, and we have a shopping mall in far end, there's a cinema, and the other end a hotel, where they can engage with their guy who has another family somewhere in the Dacia nearby. No, he was very serious about this is the concept. And we bring all the products in a sort of, and it should be non-urban. So here you smell that the landscape architect is needed. So it was, and we had to fantasize about this, can you imagine? So it doesn't start with what do we design, or I mean it started with a crazy idea. So as a team we brought, and Yuri, my friend, he brought he had to do all the shops in 2 stories. So the concept ended with a very warm, heated parking garage, because if you step out, it should be very comfortable. So, and they have enough energy in Russia, at least that was the concept. You go up many places and you need to be in a sort of countryside. That's what he asked for. And it should not be comfortable because the women were supposed to go into the shops. So they were not supposed to sit outside, no furniture, no. And this is 1.5 miles, so I'm not talking about a minor thing. This is a serious project. And so finally the architecture became, here you see it. So we introduced to not make a 1 line, although he bought a strip, which is the lines to make it a little bit meandering. This is the farthest we could make. And all the architecture, here you see it's built in concrete and then clad it in Canadian cedar. So everything is timber, because otherwise it is not linked to the philosophy of the countryside. And we had to, and there was, so we brought a sort of, you know, engagement in this, because it was very tasteless architecture that was ordered, because you only should see the windows. You were not supposed to see the architecture at all. The architecture was only, you know, leaving a sort of intuition what it was, but not leaving identities. And the landscape could be a little bit more elaborate. So we, after, and the guy was very triggered about it. So we, after 4 months of research, we had a sort of mosaic pattern, which he liked enough. Of course, we dumped 10 times nicer designs, but this was a dialogue with vodka all the time. And the strange thing is that, and we were engaged with them. This is bricks from Western Europe. They have bricks like this big. They told us we will work. We had no contract, first of all. We accept your drawings, but they should be simple. And we work with 3 groups of workers. So they will live on the site until the project is finished. So 1 group came from Armenia, 1 Chechen, and 1 former Yugoslavian. If you are a Western European person and you think your project will be executed by a former Yugoslavian, you're really scared, because this means that there is some links between people which are not related about the quality of the work. So they work with 3 groups, and the guy, I discovered only after the work, the guy you know, told the foreman of those 3 groups that they were a competition. So we have 1.5 mile, and there were 3 groups, and they're working towards each other. And what happened? So I had to show up every 2 weeks, and then the whole entourage of this client came there, and we always sit in the middle of the project. There was nothing, only the project. So this is not what you think is sort of headquarters where you have to go to. and he only wanted to build something which he could understand himself, touch, see, or whatever, understand it. So no abstracts. And what he did, and then we figured out how it worked. Very Russian logic. He went with the workers over the job, and then he said, "This is good. You all come to see. It should be built like this." And so he took the best from the three teams always and brought that in the competition. And so here you see one of the teams. They live in containers. This is at lunchtime. They all were handed out 2 breads. And they worked summer and winter. So they worked continuously. They worked. So while you know we thought, well, the work stops in November, and it stops. It didn't stop. They continued to work, and they were really mosaicing because they were told to do so. All the details exactly following the lines. Working with molds, you see they are cutting slim pieces of the bricks, and then we could in pockets which sink into the garage plant all kind of pine trees and make the landscape part of temporary project like ice sculptures, or there could be, for example, a fashion week, so that the pockets could be filled with something related to the commercial of the fashion week. So these are very bad photos because when we were there it was always too cold to picture. So the project is finished. It's realized. On the site we always came with these kind of cars with military cars in front and behind, with a sort of private army of, it is very bizarre, but the client is very smart, and we established to have a dialogue between Gucci and Prada and this strip in a very strong way. And you should go, if you have the chance to be in Moscow, you should have half an hour on this strip and enjoy it. The parking space, because we thought, most of the people park underneath, some people park outside, so we could, and this is very interesting with the Russian client. So these are all the brands who are there. The parking site we try to make, because the people who ride there are so rich and they have such unbelievable cars that we thought, well, they have to park the cars in their own way. That you enter here. So there's no indication. So all of the parking strip is meandering. To help the illusion that you are not in the city. Understand? So when we finished the project, the client was extremely excited and happy with the project. And till the clash, economy clash, he gained a fortune with the project because it got also a lot of media attention. It works very well in commercials. He then explained me that before we were doing the job, that he fired Hetzer Numeron because they were supposed to do the project and it didn't work. He didn't tell me what didn't work, but that's the storyline. So that's what I want to tell about the project. Benches, but we made benches in molds. They were installed, and then he said, "Out! People should not sit." This is a donut bench, and this is what it looks like in reality. In winter, you see that they occupy all kind of. So it's not a stable, dumb landscape, but it is very interactive with all kind of commercial activity. Okay, now I hope in this computer we can find the next file. We have our office has a very good relation with a London-based developer who is called Sir Stuart Lipton. He is a very visionary person who brought the American concept of business park, such as a campus for business, in Europe. So he was the first to establish in the 80s this concept, and it was known as in Europe as Stockley Park near Heathrow. So that was his concept. Then in the 90s he asked us to reinvent with us and Richard Rogers the concept of a business park beyond Stockley Park. So, and we had to sort of deal with the guy who was stubborn to deliver the first buildings in 1 year. So he called us in August. He said next August we hand over the keys for the first buildings. So he pushed Richard Rogers into a sort of generic approach for aluminum building, because he immediately made a contract with the Saudi aluminum industry. And then we had less than a week as a team with pressure cooker to design a concept. And the concept which came out is this sketch, an interior which is mellow, feminine, soft, full of fantasies, romantic, over-the-top cliche waterfalls, tears. And the buildings are masculine, abstract, temple-like aluminum boxes, glass and aluminum, and they have no emotion, and they have no color, nothing. So the landscape is was from their point, and this is the outcome of the pressure cooker, the identity. I tell you this because, to be honest, we here bring a sort of, we deal here with a sort of context of which could be cliche, could be bombast, or could be fun, or shallow, or Disney. It's very complex domain to deal with. So the local community, the borough, pushed the client into real complexity to take on board all kind of ecological measurements, which were not very common in London. And one of it was that there was a zero footprint of water, so no income of water and no spoil, no loss of water. So we had with Rogers to collect all the water from the roofs in a basin, and we, together with the topography, decided to make two pools, a higher and a lower, with a waterfall in the middle. And here you see, the moment we sketched, the day after, there was an artist impression office producing these kind of artist impressions, which are, like, we can never be so perfect as what you see here. And in the same time, the client had a very convincing, they worked with 3 young kids working on an identity of the business park, and they came with a crazy idea of thank God it's Monday, happy to work, and they created, while we were sketching, a website which was about starting to sell a complete different approach, in which service was the key thing. So you rent a space, if you're an individual or with a group, it doesn't matter, and you get services for your pet, for your kids. They buy tickets for you. They book your flight. You can have a meeting room. They organize conference and hotels. So the business park concept is mainly about that you're really relaxed and you have no. You're not a corporate thing. You're landing in a sort of much more generic world of services and media and good restaurants. So this is the story of the park. I tell this because I think it's important that you understand the context. So we built maquettes in our mind. The architecture had to be dealt with almost a sort of Canadian touch. So we brought in not evergreens but European cedars. They leave, when it's cold winter, they leave their leaves. And they are very warm. They are very green, open, warm trees. In England, people don't understand this concept. And they are Victorian preoccupied. And they want every tree and every flower to be diverse. They go for diversity. So we end up with not a Canadian bold concept, but more sissy-related, gentle, reasonable, botanic collection. So we were the square needed to be programmed for all kind of sport facility, and every day they organize something else. The signage was done by those smart kids. Everything is yellow. All the signage, every website, everything is yellow. So we did plant some of these European cedars. Look how nice they go with Foster, and we ended up with a collection of trees. We made flowers, and all the flowers they blossom red, even the water lilies, which is not on these pictures. And dry rivers, this is very romantic decks, and the interesting thing is that people really come from their offices at lunchtime, and they hang around, and they work with the sound of the waterfall. So we finally succeeded the client to buy 2 trains, full trains of stones, of rocks from the Welsh coast, and we built the fountain from these stones with the mine people. Got the permission, and this was shipped by train to London and rebuilt in the same order. It is a remarkable, for a Dutch guy who has never touched rock, remarkable stone wall, I believe. The client regretted a lot because he said in Hollywood they do better with concrete and sort of, you know, he is seriously thinking that this is not good enough, that you can make better illusions of stone than what we brought. And the waterfall is now, and this is about 4-meter drop. The waterfall is very important because it fills the entire park with the sound of water and creates an illusion, which is mellow and cliche, but very strong. All the details are sophisticated. They have paid a lot of attention to the wood. A very important project for us was, I tell you this because I figured out recently that I have to restore the real history, because there was a little bit rewritten history by Adriaan Geuze. We won a competition for the World Expo in Yverdon, and it's a Swiss expo. And our concept, and this is a design which was only done by women in our office. We had the idea, let's try to do a project which is only with women. What will come out of West 8 feminine? What comes out? Like, we were interested in that. And of course the concept, we wanted to conceptualize what would be the soft thing, based on one banality. That's, can we, and this is, I tell you, because the world of landscape architecture is very, need to be very light. That's what I believe. So can we bring Holland? Holland is a beautiful cloud, like all the painters, they paint the clouds, and tulips. Can we export Holland in Switzerland? Can you do that? So this is a fundamental poetic question. So we made the expo without architecture. So the concept was only media and landscape brings an expo. So we vetoed pavilions. That's why I think we won the competition with that approach. And you know, all the hills, they are temporary. They are filled with program, camouflaged in truck, textile, painted landscape textures, the yellow hill, and part of the concept was a cloud. So we then, after we won the competition, we asked Adriaan Geuze to design the cloud. So So here you see the welcome on the station square. This is all built by the military, so it's temporary wood. The stone is keeping it, you know, from avoiding it from flying when there is heavy wind. And the track of flowers brings you into the site, which is only soft hills, gravel from the excavation of the tunnel nearby, like yellow gravel, and all the flower shops. And the interesting thing here is that the color is so much that the scale of amount of flowers and the bizarre way they deal with the mountain landscape distance makes really people happy. So even my grandmother, she loved the project, although I'm not convinced that she understands anything about architecture. She just loves flowers, and everyone loves flowers, and if you are allowed to walk into the flowers, and if it's even more than you can digest, the effect is unbelievable. So this is, we had such a luck that we could execute this. You see people were really into the flowers. This is flower. You can only in Brazil you can go beyond. Then in half the park there is this crazy mist, which brings a sort of bizarre illusion, and the cloud above the lake, which was designed unbelievably nice and low on architecture, as you see. Okay, this is the real history, so if you read something else in books, remember this. You know, the file is split up in smaller files because it had to be shipped into another computer. Okay, very important project for us, for our team today is the waterfront of Toronto. We won a competition, and I think it is intriguing to understand sort of strange dialogue with the context of the client. Toronto, and we figured out after we tried to enter the competition, is in a strange competition with Chicago. So Toronto is the Canadian metropolis on the Great Lakes, and they always look with one eye to Chicago. There's a strange thing between, I don't know, I'm not Canadian or American, I don't understand, but that's the story. And Chicago successfully implemented the waterfront with Anish Kapoor, you know, unbelievable money, which is logic in Chicago because there's a lot of leadership, philanthropy, people bring something to the city and they create legacy. In Canada, specifically Toronto is not about that. If you are really rich and you want to bring money, that's not Canadian. It's almost undemocratic, and Toronto is, although could have the same power and spirit, much more intrigued by sort of multicultural diversity, and has, like in Scandinavia, sort of strange obsession with normal things, with reasonability, with you know, I'm learning every day from what the Canadians are, and I speak very high of them, but they have something which makes me remind about Scandinavia, and it's very democratic. And the strange thing is they gave a brief. So they want a world-class waterfront. They look with one eye to Anish Kapoor and all these kind of amazing jobs. And they have a brief, and the brief only explains sustainability, handicapped people, local community, children. These are the only words. And you read it again and again, and you read, you know, what are they asking for? So this is really bizarre. At the same time, they invite world-class architects, Norman Foster, Jean Nouvel, you know, name them. They were all invited. So which is, and if you then read sustainability, children, handicapped people, local communities, lost. So we saw when we were invited, and we were obsessed to win this competition. We thought we need better research. So you see the waterfront, where downtown Toronto fails ever to be mirrored in the lake. You know, the Gardiner, the highway is there, the railroads, there, junkyards. It's terrible. Developers, they pollute the site with condo towers. And people don't even get at the waterfront, and it really needs a job. So if you're there, you really feel like, let's have a studio here, let's do research. That's the storyline. Queensquay Boulevard is an urban canyon, no tree, and Canadian winters are very windy and cold, I tell you. The summers are boiling, harsh and hot, and that's it. So we tried to make a sort of research, and this is the only thing I want to tell designers, I think, less relevant. What are the Canadians looking after? What make them tick? That's actually what we were looking for. We went there as a team, 2 Canadians with us, to see the cottage, because something could a cottage, the cliche of Canadian landscape, be what they were looking after. I took canoe lessons, learning that you rotate your hand, that you strike, and you pedal and steer in one. Otherwise you go like this, you know. Like, so there is a technique for that. You see my hand here? That's the technique. And we went to see the art. So this is the School of Seven, the painters, Tom Thompson. Tom Thompson is the Rembrandt of Canada. His paintings are in every school class, in every toilet in Canada. You find it in every caravan. You find a small image, Tom Thompson. And those guys, they went into the countryside in the early 20th century. They painted the landscape, and they made a mental frame for Canadians to understand nature. This is what I learned in Canada. And that's why we need artists. Artists need to give us the frame for our perception towards nature. Unbelievable art. I mean, it's very underestimated, because this is the same time as Picasso, you know. So we like Picasso. This is more old-fashioned, but the School of Seven is better than Van Gogh. Look at this. This is unbelievable. So we did research in the National Museum. You know, what did the Canadians do? You know, what is their, you know, the perception of nature? Of course, this is somewhere near American border in the west side. You see the size of the tree to the right. So we brought a logic. Can we deal with Toronto as a downtown and deliver almost on the edge of what can be possible this mental frame of what Canada is? So we made this collage. So can we build a waterfront from primary trees with huge root space? Everywhere we plant them. So we imagine we as Dutch come to Canada and tell them you should plant big trees. Let's say Canadian trees. Instead of cherry trees and, you know, shrubs. Because it's all parking garage, of course, Canada and Toronto parking garage, so you cannot grow real trees. So we brought the sort of logic. This is it. And then we built a waterfront from only rock, granite, or wood or timber. You know, this is, let's try what happens if we do that, as if it is a cottage. All the furniture, and then the interesting step, we won the competition. This was very intriguing. In the Bay, Toronto Bay area, there are 2 scientific research institutes monitoring every day the quality of water and biotope development after, because they have a Canadian heavy sorrow on their shoulder that they fool around, of course, with nature. Canadians are completely bastards. They have tar fields, sand fields. They founded the clear-cutting concept, and all of these urban waterfronts are polluted like crazy. So they now fight back with sustainability, almost like they are you know, respectful for nature. So this is a very interesting thing. But they do monitor the biotopes every day, constantly, and we found these guys. Here you see a pike, a huge pike, and a pike means that water is very good because it's a predator. It can only live in fresh water, which is very clear, so it can see the other fish to eat, and the other fish cannot easily hide themselves. So then we came with the idea: can we design something on the argument that it sells the big investment in sustainability? So our project is about creating underwater biotopes and then making small decks above, which are shaped in a way that it makes you aware there is some investment in the water. So the Canadians here in Toronto, they spent already $14 million on underwater biotopes. There is no mayor in America who done $40 million in the water. I mean, but in Canada this is a program. So they are very proud of it. So we try to make a sort of floating concept of floating ecology. But basically this is a very important image which explains underwater biotopes investment, and on top bridges and boardwalks. You see with our assistants from the university the detailed design, it's not ours, of the fish habitat with stems of trees and special stones and substrata and everything. That's where the money goes. Drain stormwater tank, and on top of that we built pontoons and decks, and we brought bridges to make a better connectivity. And then we tried ourselves to make a sort of, can we design them without too much shape? So we create a family of bridges which are detailed with some iconic references, like here the pedal. We only do little details in, for example, here the joints, which is a lot of work, but not everything is designed. And to keep it pure, bold, fat, and non-elegant and Canadian cliche. And the outcome, I tell you, is overwhelmingly charming. This is very strange, because we learn a lesson here. So here you see again a bridge with a sort of elegant waist, very sexy but very simple as well. And every slip, every small harbor has its own deck shape, bridge shape. They are slightly different, so at the end of the day, when you come often, you will recognize it. And then we tried, and this is very intriguing, we tried to build one of the bridges as a beaver dam. So we changed the slip, killed the dock walls and let it collapse into a sort of Canadian landscape. Seriously, this is the place where they launch canoes in the water. And then they say no. While we thought this is the best design we ever did. And this is not an easy design. To make beaver dam as a sort of construction work. Even Arab had a really tough job in this, and they didn't like it because this is Disney. Don't know. So this is lost. You see all the slip ends, which are now under construction. They have their own silhouette. Under the slip end is illumination. And we brought red as a color of hell and love and death. And again, it cannot be red. It's very invisible, fragile line. You cannot step over it. So we always, this is interesting about the project, but they do execute. So the decks, this is Spadina, who know the place, and which links to Chinatown, very vital street. Here you see the slip end realized, and it works like a magnet. People really recognize the timber and step on it, and no matter your day and night, all season, people, it's like magnets. People are there, and we did quite a serious job on keeping everything on code, because in Europe you will make this more exciting, but we have to stay below 4% and fence areas off. At Simcoe we could make a deck, so the mayor, he make every deck the last, he drills the last screw. It's the mayor's project, and you see the Mayor Miller, unbelievable smart guy. He's in the last term now. You see the simple deck is like small amphitheater shapes, and this is always full of kids and people. Rees is the place where they launch canoes. And then finally the color is blue and green and not red. All the furniture is now in production. We are now trying to make an alternative Muskoka chair. And the climax will be Parliament, which is one of the docks slips to be filled half with stormwater tanks, and above there will be a huge deck with holes for UV penetration and for allowing manholes to be elegantly shaped into polyp-like undersea water, one cell animals, whatever, creatures. It has a sort of intuition with ocean life. But it is actually the cladding, it's on top of investment for stormwater. So the whole project deals as an argument only with handicapped people, clean water. So everything is related to it. Only then we get through. But it brought us also a logic to take it more than serious. So you see the plan is printed on the public transport, on the tram. So the tram sells the project. Here the mayor opens an installation. We could convince the mayor to build as an installation the Queen's Quay project for 10 days. So for 10 days all of the traffic was taken from 3 lanes of Queen's Quay Boulevard, which is a major achievement in Toronto. Everyone loves cars, even more than in America. And people from suburbs, they came with their family on bike. They could bike. And from the police department, we had a link to the Department of Stolen Bicycles. We could build an installation of the Toronto stolen bicycles. Again, this was totally in the right direction. Bicycles, stolen bicycle. Nobody wants his bicycle to be stolen. So we take in this project constantly sort of step into this DNA of Toronto. And strangely, it was, of course, this was on national TV and in all the newspapers. These projects, they sold themselves. And the mayor, he's a clever guy, so he came to the television and said, I received so many phone calls and emails, and people ask me, Mayor Miller, if it can be like this for 10 days, why it cannot stay like this forever? So he is abusing these arguments. So he is a master of the soft argument to be used to create a large master plan. One of the speakers of the parliament opened a Saturday morning bike parade, and we are now delivering this project first steps. Are there any questions? It is not finished, but I need to fill the time. I'm looking for another. But please, question. No. Usually in our office. No, we could not change the design. Because we had a whole package of drawings, and he said, I cannot change the design. It was a sort of strange kidnapping situation. Too much. Okay. About the context of mayors in Madrid, we won a competition for bringing the M4 motorway in tunnels. It's 23 kilometers, about 18 miles of highway tunnel, which is 3 times the big thing. 3 times the big thing. And the mayor Gallardon, who is Parti Popular, he's a conservative, very intelligent guy. He, because he was kicked from his party, and he said, I want to be the mayor of Madrid. If I will be the mayor, I tunnel the entire motorway, everything. And I'm going to do it, I'm going to deliver. So he did deliver that in 3 years, because then he had 1 year of campaigning that he did do the job. He did what he promised. And after 3 years he was heavily critiqued by the opposition that he succeeded in making the tunnels, which is unbelievable to make in 3 years 23 kilometers of tunnels. But that Madrid looked like a mess, like a war zone, and it was only, you know, a dump site for contractors. And then he campaigned for his next campaign for, I will deliver, if you re-elect me, beautiful, newly born, stitched Madrid with boulevards, parks and new housing projects on top of the tunnel. So this was his next campaign. International competition, and we were lucky to win this competition. And we had to deliver in less than 4 years the entire job. And Gallardon, because we were asked on his office. So here you see this is the Royal Palace. Did you see? And here is a boulevard which slopes down to the river and has the backdrop of the palace. He said, I want to be photographed here. And then he walked to his calendar and said, I forgot, well, it's May 14. In 3 years, I want to be pictures here with the palace in the back. So it's totally different than Canada, a sort of, you know, abusing architects for a straightforward mission. There was no tender because he already had the biggest contractor in Spain doing the job, because he was a very good friend with the director. And that was the second statement. This guy, he was there, you have to listen to this guy. If you don't listen to this guy, who's a contractor, you're out. So these were the two statements. And you know, in the old days, the river was a very romantic area where people walked and swam, and where all kind of festivals were. And now it changed into a highway. Here you see parts of the project 8 years ago. So the construction went so quick that the contractors, they could not even use drawings, so they dig tunnels and excavated, and they found foundations, bridges, and they had to stop tunnel and make parallel structures, and it was like you know, like a military campaign operation. And so we could not work in a sort of logic of drawings, tendering, you know, dealing with the details with the people who executed, because the execution was organized as, for example, there were they worked on 3 areas, and they said approximately 15 meters a day is the amount of progress we need to do. Whatever you bring is okay, but we need to build 15 meters every day. And of course, and every 15 meters became the logic. So we don't think about tomorrow and then the next day. We think about the next 15 meters, and we find the problem, we solve the problem, and then the next problem. So and we have not the logic because we work with computers to work like that. So we had to organize an office on the site, 22 people staff, who listened to the contractor and produced the 15-meter job. I show you the outcome. So this is the Avenida Portugal. You see the palace in the backdrop, slopes down. There was a tunnel with 2 layers. Here you see the execution of the boulevard. Because the boulevard is running to Lisbon, it was a very colonial old boulevard, and runs through a landscape with mandel and cherry. We took the logic to make Portuguese craftsmen build a Portuguese streetscape, and everyone liked that idea. So Portuguese came to do their stone job, mosaic paver based on the cherry tree, and benches, because that was another demand. People sit outside, about 4 miles of bench. So the bench is helping us to shape the topography. Here they executed, and then they opened. This is done so quick. It opened here, you see Geuze picking up his cell phone, opening in front of the Royal Palace, and yeah, it was here us. This is Carlos, who organized the project from Madrid. It's finished. The next job was the year after, so this was the first project to deliver. The year after, same story, in 1 year to deliver a project, a park with a backdrop of the palace. So he wanted to have all the first pictures with the palace of the backdrop. Here you see the park, all the trees are in line. And we could hardly make a design. We tried to make a sort of design for the bondage, to have the trees stabilized, you see. So these kind of details really matter, and we spend, this is really interesting. And we make almost a random landscape where a creek swings through, and of course it's a dry creek, and only the season is filled with water, and bridges are made of granite. Everything is made of the same stone, from the same quarry, from the same contractor. And this is project number 2, 1 year later, and Geuze in the middle, watching the Royal Palace here in the background, the fence of the park. And project number 3 is almost executed, is the highway along the river, where we came with the idea to buy pines from the mountains, which are very bizarre shaped, like dancing pines, to plant imperfect pines. They are the only trees which survive on top of the tunnels in a world of concrete. And to support them with a very sensitive stick, which is, we see this stone from Bali, and also related to bullfighting. So it is a sort of fork where they stitch the bull, but then shaped differently in cast iron. And we, here the trees, they arrive from all over Europe. They are planted like, again, a military operation, 15 meters a day. And this is how we basically produce the concept. All the playgrounds, because there are many playgrounds, are made from wood. And like Spain, you know, everywhere in Spain, the public space, the moment it's finished, it's completely full. Everyone lives outside. It is unbelievably rich collective life. You see, you know, you cannot be there without people. And then the project we have to wait for, because there were all kind of tunnel problem with this medieval bridge, the Toledo Bridge, near the Atletico Madrid Stadium. There we will make a huge terrace, parterre, on the river. Restoration of old bridges, and one of the highway bridges we could keep and plant Salon de Pinos, the boulevard over the bridge, which is now executed. And the most intriguing part of the project is that we designed for pedestrian 5 bridges. The concept was to make them prefabricated from concrete. They are like a whale. They are monstrously. They are very heavy. They are not elegant. They are rough. They will be dirty, and they have hundreds of cables to hang the bridge deck, which is in contrast with the concrete, very elegant, and an interior which is as gold as Tutankhamun. And so we were fantasizing about an art project in gold in the interior. Finally, we could team up with the director of the Prado Museum, and then we lost our concept of gold because he selected an artist who is making this in blue instead of gold. But okay, that's what our project is. about often. So here you see the first bridge was done in prefabrication, then the economy collapsed, and Zapatero, the Prime Minister, ordered that all the infrastructure projects in Spain should from then on be distributed over hundreds of contractors with very small business deals, and they should guarantee that the work would be executed in a very short term. So that every infrastructure investment, which was already in position, governmental money, needed to be executed quick to boost the economy. So our project now is in the hands of 200 contractors. So we had to deal with one, and we had to deliver the 15-meter day job, and now we have no possibility on the planet to control the work anymore. There's nobody who is, not even an administration, able to digest the amount of complexity with 200 contractors and maybe over 1,000 subcontractors doing business all over the site, 23 kilometers. So, and we made the concept, the design for a prefabricated bridge, which was then in budget. And due to this change, the bridges will be built by different contractors, and they built only one bridge inside, traditionally. I tell this story because I think a lot of students don't know that this is architecture, and only this is architecture. So these are researchers on maquettes, drawings, very different than the bridge design, very high-profile details like a railing. You know, this railing is you can hardly understand how super nice this is. Look at this, no? So it's very much into the eye and all kind of romantic fantasies. Here, they are building the bridge now. You see, with huge molds. So first they build a scaffold, they dry the river, build a scaffolding, then they build a mold, then they fill it with concrete, take away the mold, and then the bridge is there. And very traditional, almost done. The guys who build the molds are carpenters, and they are so good they don't want to make rough finish. They cannot do that. So everything is polished and nice. And when the plank is wrong, they take it out and build a new plank. So, you know, the roughness is also a little bit lost. So here you see it's very spectacular, they built day and night. And it's now getting there. Young children, they walk over the bridge. Can you imagine? The bridge is so much, you know, it is challenging. You cannot understand it is out of the normal daily logic, and people fantasize and act and adapt totally differently with the bridge. And the artist started the work. Here you see the result of the. This is where they fill the concrete through holes. This is the finish of a hole. Kabali, the wild pig. So here's our fantasies for artists, as an inspiration for them in colors. And then there will be a fresco. We could change the concept of the artist from photography into tiles, ceramics. So, and now they build these figures in ceramics, and this is all handwork. It's amazing. So they first build a whole figure on the floor, and then they attach it. Isn't that great? It's unbelievable, huh? Unbelievable. And so this is not. It will be clean because this is, you know, they scrub the cement in the gaps. It will be cleaned and illuminated. Could it be the last project, or is it what time? we are so happy to have our first project after we won the Governors Island project in New York. We were able, but this project is a little bit on hold. It waits for announcements and comes later. We were lucky to be introduced into Miami in a project where Frank Gehry Architects designed a New World Symphony, a building for a school for musicians, which is one of, I believe, one of the most intriguing buildings of the Gehry team. The building is a box, it's very much a shoebox, huge, with an atrium where all the soft shapes occur. So the inside is the soft, undulating, melting domain inside a very simple box parameter. And the front space need to be a public space, an intimate urban park. I won't tell you all the history of and the context of it, and for us it was very clear that there was a sort of tension between the client team of the New World Symphony and the city of Miami Beach, and the city wanted to have a sort of autonomous park, which is for the city and not related necessarily with the building. You know, behind the scenes there was a sort of energy of Miami Beach, the euphoria of Miami Beach, and the pleasure. And I think landscape architecture is the only argument for landscape architecture is that to build something useless, like music and poetry, there is no argument for music and poetry, not at all. It's just there or not, you like it or you don't like it. You know, that's different than architecture, because now architecture is from a brief, and from a budget, and from a program. And landscape, in essence, but we are not allowing ourselves as landscape architects to say like that. We make a useless space. And just because we like it, you know, and strange enough, in Miami Beach, euphoria is a program. Am I right or not? That is the sort of celebration. Is the program is celebration, well, that's why we as Europeans very much like America, because it could not be said like that. So we try to bring a sort of idea of patches, a mosaic. I don't know why, as an element to only build a park from that, in combination with a unbelievable tropical vegetation. So if you're a landscape architect and you're asked to work in Brazil or in Miami, then you're so happy because everything grows, and then you finally have paint, because we are painting with nature. That's the only thing we can do as landscape architects. The city of Miami really hated that philosophy. They say there is no maintenance for us, and your bloody park needs to be hurricane resistant. So we went to the Botanical Gardens, Fairchild, where there's a wonderful group of scientists running the most famous tropical botanic garden in the world, and they explained us that you can only build a park with vicia palms because they are the only to stand the storm. And we were so lucky, like the bridge I showed, with land, that we were not into the Burley Marx 500 species in a small pocket park concept, but that we are now in vicia land. So the park will be brought with only one specific sort of trees, with some exceptions, but and has a mosaic undulating floor, which, because the park is so small, we had to beef up the illusion of softness and park. In the mosaic there is a second layer of patterns, which is made by the joints, rock salt concrete finish, and on top of the undulation we take the benches out of the sculpture as well. We let the benches be part of the benches, so there is no furniture in the park. A lot of contemporary landscape architecture is tree, flowers, bench, lamppost. So we avoid that in this concept. and create shadow and euphoria with this layout. Walk through it. We were asked to make a better scientific concept with shade, and we were pushed to design shading structures. We came with an idea to bring on top of vegetation for shade pergolas with a cloud-like shape here. And we went through a sort of serious research with the client team, also with some double-check architects, to create overwhelming, strong image, iconic image of pergola, finally resulting in these shapes. They are based on baskets instead of columns to make more construction out of less metal, to make them really standing hurricane storm. I mean, every structure you build in Florida needs columns this size, like you normally see as a gas station. So you cannot easily think about a pergola with these kind of fat legs. So the basket was not only to grow, to let the vegetation grow out of a good shape. And then we were heavily criticized. We didn't expect it. People loved the pergola. They were adoring it. This is what we're waiting for, things like that. But they need to be non-climbable. And they are full with bougainville, which is aggressive, thorny vegetation. And so we were researching for a solution. For example, with bars with triangles. And this is the most clever design. This is with rolls, where if you climb, you automatically fall off. And we were not allowed. With fences, which are almost like peels, very nice. And every week we brought a new design, a solution. And we lost. And we then started to make, because this is serious wind loads as well. And we started with 3, 5 feet, then 7 feet, and it ended with 8 feet. And some people argued for 12 feet clearance. So imagine you have to build a pergola which doesn't touch the ground. So our construction engineer went mad and we couldn't do it. Finally we came with a sort of, out of this madness, a sort of diagonals with a lot of clever engineering, changed it to this kind of beautiful shape. And luckily we had to absorb these problems. So these are the pergolas today. They are now in the phase of being approved. The building concept, and this is very remarkable about it, is the building last year in November, has a huge wall which will be the largest video screen, I believe, in America or in the world. And the New World Symphony wants to experiment with artists and also to create a sort of glass box concept that a lot of their performances and research can be seen at night on the wall. So within the park, and that's why the Vicia, this small, fragile, slim palm, creates a veil effect that you see like if you are in a forest and the sunset, the sun sinks or rises above the horizon and then brings horizontal illumination. This will bring a sort of special quality to the park. So we are very intrigued by the effect. That it had been tested and the outcome is what we more or less expected, overwhelming, with all kind of artistic elements. We will bring the heart of the park a little bit open in connection to the atrium and have to perform with an open stage or amphitheater-like accommodation of about 1,000 people. We have to bring on the level of Michael Tilson Thomas, the conductor of the school, unbelievably sharp sound installation which was engineered like a carcass of a whale, terrible. We could find a concept with Disney specialists to camouflage the speaker system. which is state of the art, into a sort of bar, which is less architectural attention. And we are still busy to camouflage, integrate projection tower, which is more or less, if we fail, a stupid totem in the middle of the park. I show you the movie, where you see the entrance under the pergolas. You see the patches, in reality will be green and white. And you come into the heart of the park a little bit more open, you already see the screen. And you are able, in a certain department of the park, to have the best quality of sound in relation to the screen. I think this is, this is almost a boy dream that you could work on a project like this. And it seems that they're gonna finish, they're gonna deliver the project. Okay, I end with, if it does function, a small film. We did one project in Los Angeles, in Pasadena, where was a demand, and it is a fairy tale of course, for Boulevard Royal Park. So the Royal Parkway needed, I tell it in my words, needed to be a prestigious Champs-Élysées or Ramblas. And if you want that as a community, as a city, then of course you hire European master landscape architects to deliver Boulevard. For us, Arroyo was a beautiful American landscape where people are very relaxed driving cars, or even with their left hand, convertibles, music, and which is even part of the Route 66 heritage. And how can you ever make it a Ramblas? And besides that, all the median, where you normally have highway engineering, guardrails, all the medians are done with the most beautiful vegetation from the Caribbean, from South Africa, even from the jungle. It's growing there. So for us, a sort of sublime combination of Route 66, American, California, being relaxed, enjoy your car, and this botanic overwhelming quality, which is not maybe desert-like and not honest in the world of landscape ecology. We liked it so much. So we tried to bring something which better fit there. That is, I don't know whether there is a sound. So, Royal Parkway is a sort of, you drive from downtown LA. Pasadena. So we play with Washingtonia, which for us is the ultimate statement of Los Angeles. And here you right on the lamppost and the Washingtonia are, the lamppost is a homage to the tree. This boulevard we presented this in the city of Pasadena, which from my point of view was a very competitive experience. And I had the feeling to turn the business or small sidewalk. Although you could see this project from the hills where very rich people live. It's in the end of the street. So this is I believe, a very important project for us, because it was a sort of combination of being explicitly playful and researching about what we can learn from each other's context. very much. Yeah. To be honest, I told you that I was a landscape architect when I was a kid, and I wanted to be a landscape architect. And when I was in school, one day you have to choose your education. So I asked the teacher, so where can you study landscape architecture? And he said, oh, only in that school. Then I applied for that school, and one day after my diploma, I founded a landscape office. I'm an extremely boring person. So I had, like you marry your first lover and always stay with her, you know, like that. So and this is my inspiration is Dutch landscape. That's it. So being a landscape architecture is a byproduct of my own identity. It's not a sort of real position. I am not in politics. I am only in Dutch context, writing articles, and speak for my opinion. And also, I feel a sort of moral obligation. I'm from a Protestant background, so this is always a heavy burden. Because I can talk about landscape, I should talk. I have the obligation to talk because, you know, society helped me. I have to help society. And since Holland is the Netherlands, a very small country, you can easily be in the political realm, because if you stand up and speak, you are automatically there. And for me, that was very important, also mentally, because I received immense pushback from what I did. So if you are young, I was very young when I started office. I was 26. And when I was 30, I already campaigned with projects, installation in the landscape, writing articles in the newspaper, I was interviewed on television, criticizing ministers, etc. And I was really hit by people, also because they send it, politicians, they are very vulnerable, so they send it hit